All right, sounds like everybody's quiet, ready to roll here, so we'll get going. Thanks everybody for coming. A shout out to Rick Wanamaker, kind of helped set this up with Coach Gable. Before we get started, please make sure everybody's got their cell phones turned off on silent or vibrate there. We're going to show a little video here, kind of an introduction with Coach Gable. Probably a man that doesn't really need one, but we're going to do it anyway. And then he's going to take over. We're going to hit this up until 3:17 when the bell rings, and kids that need to go hit up the bus is going to do that, and we should be good to go. So.
Dan Gable, one of the most dominant wrestlers in history, compiling a book and college record of 181-1, completing his high school career as a three-time undefeated state champion with a record of 64-0. He went on to finish his college career at Iowa State University as a three-time All-American, three-time Big 8 champion, and two-time NCAA champion with a record of 117-1. Setting NCAA records in win and pin streaks and suffering his only defeat in the NCAA finals his senior year. After college and suffering one of the most storied defeats in sports history, Dan Gable went on to accomplish world-level domination, winning the 1971 Pan Am Games, capturing gold in the 1972 World Championships held in Sofia, Bulgaria, winning the hearts of the Russian fans with his gold medal performance in the Soviet Union's brutal Tbilisi tournament in 1972, and capping it all off with his famed 1972 Summer Olympic gold medal run in Munich, Germany, without surrendering a single point. In his final 21 Olympic-level matches, he scored 12 falls and outscored his 9 other opponents 130-1. Dan Gable then went on to become the greatest coach the sport of wrestling, and possibly any sport, has ever known. After joining the Iowa Hawkeye staff in 1972, he went on to become the University of Iowa's all-time winningest head coach from 1976 to 1997. Coach Gable's Hawkeyes won 15 NCAA wrestling team titles, 9 of them consecutive from 1978 to 86, 25 consecutive Big Ten championships, and had an astonishing dual meet winning percentage of over 93%, finishing his dual record at 335, 21, and 5. In his 21-year history at the helm of the Iowa Hawkeyes, Dan Gable produced 152 All-Americans, 45 national champions, 106 Big Ten champions, 12 Olympians, 4 gold medalists, 1 silver medalist, and 3 bronze medalists. He was nominated Olympic freestyle head coach 3 times in 1980, 1984, and 2000, as well as the head coach of 6 world teams. The 1984 Olympic team, which featured 4 of Coach Gable's Hawkeyes, won 7 gold medals. Dan Gable has been inducted into just about every wrestling Hall of Fame imaginable, and was listed as one of the top coaches in the 20th century by ESPN.
So I think that video kind of explains everything, so please welcome Coach Dan Gable.
Appreciate that. I'm advertising wherever I go. I try to promote amateur sport, specifically wrestling, but more than that, any activity that's extracurricular or worthwhile participating in. And of course, wrestling is the one that I was able to have a lot of success in over my whole entire life. So, I'm pushing it. That's why I've got this hat on right now. It says The Duel. You can actually watch a dual meet where Iowa gets beat by Iowa State, stops a string. It's just, there's 6 episodes, so people know how to probably do that on your television. And it just came out in Iowa State. Jim Gibbons, who was a coach there at that time, actually stopped our string. And you'd wonder why I would want to be associated with. You would wonder why I would want to be associated with a loss at that particular time. Well, you know, every once in a while you got to get straightened out a little bit. And by that I mean you fall into something that you shouldn't be falling into. And basically what it was for me, coaching, I had some great talent, but they were also celebrating all the victories that they've had for years, whether it be Iowa University or where they were coming from, being state champions and so on and so forth. And so all of a sudden, as a coach, I'm kind of following them around, making sure that they're not getting in trouble. I'm trying to corral them. I'm out late myself at nights, making sure that they're heading home at the right time. And all of a sudden, you know, we have a dual meet, that we stop our string. It starts to straighten me up a little bit, because you're not following me where I'm going on this yet, but the bottom line is you teach people, teach kids, you teach whoever the right way to do things, and not have to be able to follow them around and try to corral them all the time. So it's like you people, you're young, you're learning, and you want to know that you have a mind yourself, and that you can determine a lot of things in your life just by doing some things that are the right things to do. So, college kids, you guys are, you know, sometimes getting ready to go to college. You know, you're going to be on your own, and all of a sudden it's going to be late night, and you're going to, a lot of times, maybe you want to go out, or you maybe shouldn't go out. Well, you know, you got to use that judgment. And so, instead of me going around following my wrestlers and shooing them home, or trying to get them back to their dorms or their apartments, they should have already known that. And so it was a lesson for me that's a really important lesson, that you as an individual kind of understand what you need to do. And sometimes you have to learn the hard way. But when you learn the hard way, you don't want to continue to learn the hard way over and over again. Because if you have something that can be corrected, you should understand that. So, in this particular dual meet that we get beat, I try, and I don't like the word try, to straighten up pretty quickly what just took place. We only had a month between the last dual meet and the national championships, which were going to be held in Iowa University in 1986. So we got beat in Ames, and on the way home, believe it or not, we stopped to eat about 9 miles from Iowa City in Tiffin, and they should have known I wasn't stopping them to eat. I was stopping them to have them run home the last 9 miles. Now that's either a truth or not. But we were going for our 9th straight championship, so I had to do something that night. So anyway, they thought I had a heart because I was letting them go to a place called the Lark at that time. It was in Tiffin, Iowa, but I mean, it was midnight. I mean, it wasn't going to be open. And they all got out of the bus, and I locked the door on them and just said, "We'll see you at the wrestling room, and we'll have practice 9 miles down the road." Well, either that's true or not true, but that's a folklore. I just want you to know. But a month later, we won the NCAA championships with record-breaking performance. And because of that rule, or because of that incident that happened, the wrestling committee in the United States of America went and outlawed practice after matches. And I said, why'd you do that? I said, well, we can't keep up with you. So we have to make rules to dumb things down. And so now there's going to be a new rule that after a competition, kids can't go practice with the coach. And I said, okay. So in reality, that was good for me, even though it did or didn't happen, because now I started teaching the kids what to do to go home at nights, instead of waiting for me to come down and kick them out. After matches, all of a sudden, the kids, win or lose, when they got off the mat, they walked over and they did some sprints. They did it on their own now. They didn't have me or one of my assistants running them back and forth, whether they won or lost. You know, those types of things. So now they would go back and do the same thing on their own. It's more of a teaching thing. It's more of a learning types of thing. It's just something that you're not forced to do, and you do it on your own, and it's much better. So it's like at night, you go home. Parents might say, hey, you got between 8 and 9, you got study time. Got to get some of that homework done. Well, parents don't have to do that if you teach them that they should understand that 8 to 9 is study time. And you make them not want to do it, but they learn how to do it, and it's part of their development. And all of a sudden, you're growing somebody, and that's what it's about. It's called independence. If you're always dependent on something, then you're always dependent on something. And it won't be done unless somebody tells you. But if you develop independence, and you know how to do it on your own, and you can decide when you need to do it, and you can do it and get it done. It's much more of an accomplishment than being dependent and having somebody in the room. So, where did I learn this? When I went to Iowa State University, we had a coach back then that kind of rolled out the basketball, but we didn't do that in the wrestling room. But maybe we did a soccer ball, because we used to kick the soccer ball against the walls. We practiced leg sweeps with it. But he would roll that ball. He would say, okay, it's time to start practice. And if you didn't know what to do, he would have the coach tell you, warm up, do this, do that. Now we're going through this, do that, do this. But if you knew exactly what to do, if the coach didn't show up, you would get up, you would warm up, and you'd go about the practice in a manner of what you need individually to work on different things as athletes. And that's kind of a system that I grew up under at college. I already had a great high school coach. Bob Siddons was his name. Won multi-state championships. And he had the whistle, and he blew the whistle, and we did all these structure. We did a lot of 6-minute goals, a lot of matches, which I'm surprised sometimes that kids don't even wrestle live or combative at all. It's pretty difficult in a sport like wrestling if you don't really go live. And sometimes you're just protected injury, that type of thing, but you have to also be prepared to be able to win in these athletic events or win in life. And if you don't do some of the stuff exactly how it is, you're going to be a little bit more unprepared. So anyway, I've been lucky enough to have good coaches, good parents. Not perfect. You think my parents came home every night and was perfect? By that I mean, you don't think they drank beer? Yeah, I grew up in Waterloo, Iowa, and it was a pretty, blue-collar town, and a lot of places that things happen. But, in my life, I've had a lot of things happen, but I've been able to bounce back. And why? Because you have some pretty good foundation. If you don't have a good foundation, I kind of grew up in the YMCA. That gave me a chance to let the mom and dad kind of have somebody else take care. You know, I don't know what you have around here, but if you need help, go for help. You know, mom and dad, or even if the kids, you know, if you need some help, you know, you got to go for help. And the YMCA, I started when I was 4, and I stayed there until I was about 13. Once junior high started, pretty much now I had other teachers and coaches that, you know, that I could rely on for good guidance. Actually, my first good grade in school, you get grades anymore in school, or no? You get A's, B's, C's, D's, E's, F's? You sure? Because somebody told me you don't get any grades anymore. But you really get them. You get those A, B, C's, D's, and F's. No, you don't get F's, right? I don't think I ever got an F. I'm not going to ask who got F in here, but so anyway, my first good grade was a B, and it was in 8th grade. And why was it? It was the first time I ever walked into a class where I felt comfortable. And the reason why, you know, it was because I looked up and it was my wrestling coach that was teaching Algebra 1. And I actually got a B in that course. And I didn't really realize what a good grade would feel. So guess what it felt like for me? I got a B. That's not perfect. But what it felt like was this. What's that? What is that? In a wrestle match, they raise your hand. It was the first time I ever felt like I had a grade that gave me a feeling like winning in an activity. And mine was wrestling. And it was the first time I ever had a teacher that I really got along with, because I was kind of a hellion. But because of that class, I got opportunities to go to Iowa State University with a full ride scholarship, and I started getting good grades after that year, which is 9th grade, and that's, I believe, and go to college, they look at your 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade scores. At least they did back when I was going to school. And, you know, from that 9th grade on, I had decent grades. Enough to get me to be eligible to be able to go to Iowa State to wrestle and go to school and get a full ride scholarship. So, anyway, Marengo, you've been good to me. Marengo's been good to me. And why do I say that? Well, I had a guy named Mike McGivern that wrestled for the University of Iowa. I think he was a 2-time All-American, or maybe 1-time All-American. I think he was 4th in the nation. But we have a Mike McGivern Senior Award, and I'm not there right now as the coach, but they still give that award out every year. So Marengo, Iowa has a lot to do with Iowa Wrestling, who has been a championship team for a long period of time. But that Michael McGivern Senior Award and we had a wrestler named Mike McGivern Jr. on there. And we had another McGivern, and we had an older McGivern that was like helping out with the program. So that's Marengo, Iowa. But what happened was we one time went to a big tournament. And you may know this story, because Mike McGivern Jr. was wrestling in it, and I believe he was, we were in a battle for so many first place. And after Mike wrestled, I believe, the first day, it was a 2-day event, and he just won his quarterfinal match, or or he lost his quarterfinal match, and he would have to wrestle back the next day, or he would go to the semifinals, either one, but he was to wrestle the second day. Well, after his match that evening, his dad was in the stands, and he died. I don't know if you know that. It was Mike Sr. He died right after one of his matches. I mean, that's unbelievable, you know. And all of a sudden, this kid, Mike Jr., finds out this. His mom's there. They have a meeting. They talk. And he wants to wrestle the next day. It's not that the team was in a race, which we were, but that's beside the point. It's just that he looked at it like, what would my dad want me to do right now? I mean, this is the same night he makes this decision. You know, and I told him, you know, you're not going to get any sleep probably, so, you know, if you change your mind, you decide to make that decision. But the next day, he wrestled back, and he scored, or he did really well in the tournament, enough to help win a championship in that particular tournament, which was beside the point. But we have that award that we give out every year, the Most Courageous Award. And that's from right here in Marengo, Iowa, with one of your people. And it's an unbelievable story, because I don't think I've ever heard anybody probably doing that. But you got to think about what I said. You got to think about how that people would look at it. In my life, my 10th grade year in high school, I was walking home, or walking to school. I was walking with a neighbor, and he wasn't my friend, but he was in my class. And he starts talking to me about my sister, who was 4 years older than me. And he said some things that I should have went home and shared with her or with my folks. And I actually went back, or that night I was going to share, and all of a sudden there was a big fight going on in the house, and I just said, I'm going to let it go. 2 weeks later, he breaks into our house, kills her, my sister. You know, it's things that that you have to live through and go on. And it's like you can go and you can just suffer, or you can just look the other way, or you can just go out there and do things because of things. Mike McGivern, Marengo, Iowa, came back the next day, scored enough points, helped the team win a championship. That was his first healing process right there, for losing his dad. For me, it's never stopped affecting me. And I'm sure for Mike, it's never stopped affecting him. And it's one of these things that you look at it from a different point of view. What would make these people more proud? And the other thing is, you're looking to see, was there a mistake made? And yeah, there was a mistake made. I didn't communicate. And now I probably communicate too much. Because my wife's always telling me, I don't want to hear that, shut up, But, when you got something on your mind, when you got something on your chest, you need to talk it out. You need to get it out there. That's how you learn. That's how you find out whether you're going in the right direction. And so for me, it's a never-ending process. It's a never-ending process that I possibly could have saved my sister's life. And because of that, all these accolades came a little, not easier, but came a little more dedicated for me to be able to honor, something that you think that you should honor. So anyway, so Mike McGivern, that's the story with Mike McGivern. That's Marengo, Iowa. Now we got Travis Pfizer. Marengo, Iowa. Travis Pfizer. I mean, was he, oh wow, oh, Mike McGivern, I can still talk about Mike McGivern, because you know what Mike McGivern, I had to do to Mike McGivern? I don't know if it was before, after, whatever, I figured him out. He always got really nervous. He got so nervous, it affected his performance. So, you know how you sit out there, watch your team wrestle, and he was about the 67-pounder, 158-pounder, so he's about 6th or 7th out of 11 or 12 guys or 10 guys. I finally figured out as a coach, and this is what coaching and teaching is all about, that you don't set Mike McGivern out on that chair to watch all these other guys wrestle, because he's draining his energy. So Mike McGivern sat in the locker room with somebody, he's one of his best friends, I don't know, maybe even a girlfriend, I don't know. And they watched TV, and I made sure the TV that he watched was something he really liked. And then about the match before his, or maybe the match before that, if he's probably the 6th or 7th match, maybe the 4th match, he would come up and get ready, and he didn't have that much time to be able to get all nervous. And he was warmed up, he had warmed up down below somewhat, but he was kind of relaxing instead of watching and getting nervous to his time. And so, that's something that also happened. That's a good coaching, idea. If somebody isn't performing as well as they should because of certain things, you got to attack that. Or as if you're a teacher and there's somebody's in the room. I'm going to tell you that if there's teachers in here right now, I don't know, is there? There might be. This might be hard, so I'm not going to rub it in. But if this is my class right here, I'm going to tell you right now, if this is my class, and I have to give somebody an F in here, it's not on you totally. It's on me too. Because I should know that that person isn't doing what they're capable of doing or struggling, and that I should have some way to get them special help just to make sure that they don't flunk the course. Now, I'm not saying it's 100% all factual, because there's some people that might just look and I don't even care. Might even give me the finger or something. Who knows? And that doesn't mean I quit trying. But you still have the ability to get that F. I'm not going to give it to you. But I can tell you right now, if I'm a teacher, if I'm a wrestling coach, and I got 30 guys out there, or girls, hey, them Marengo girls, they're pretty tough right now. Anyway, I got 1 through 30. I got number 1 who's my best guy or girl. I got number 30 who's my best guy or girl. And I want number 30 to work his way up to 29. And I want number 29 to work up to 28. And I don't know who takes over 30, but I want number 30 to go back up to there. And I want them to work their way up. I want you to get all the way up to number 1 if you can. But at least I want you working always to improve and not be the bottom line. You don't have to be the bottom line forever. I mean, I've had kids I've had to pull out of the lineup that were pretty much the bottom in the room. I mean, I never called them the bottom of the room because would never say that. But I could tell who was probably ranked 1 to 30, and I didn't tell them that, but I had that. And so I was always getting them to work to be towards that number 1. And again, it's not going to always get up there, but 20's better than 30, 15's better than 20, 9's better than 10, as far as ranking. So, that type of stuff. So you're also making everybody improve. And guess what? Sometimes you have to rely on other people besides the top starters. And a lot of times when I went, I've had to pull of an injury or whatever, I had to pull somebody out, and guess who came through? That guy that was not ranked so high and saved. I had a kid named Mitch Kelly from Dubuque. And twice I had to pull him out against Oklahoma State and against Iowa State. And it came down to his match both times where, my gosh, how do you beat their best guy? It's just one of those things. Stepped up, got the job done, found out he was a pretty good wrestler, and you're making people better all the time. So, Travis Pfizer, wow. He was a guy that he wasn't just going to get it done, because, I mean, if I'm going to call somebody for stalling, I'm going to call Travis Pfizer for stalling. If I just get him to move, and so I got got a couple posters here, but they're a picture of me and a statue, and I'm pointing, and basically I'm pointing to each one of you. Don't stall in life. Don't stall in life. You really execute in life. So you do something in your classroom. You do something on the wrestling mat. That doesn't mean you're going to win every time, but when you're executing and getting good things done, you are learning. You are learning. And it doesn't have to be in sports. It can be in anything. It can just be in those A, B, C, D, Fs, right? Is that how it goes here? Or not? So, I never got an F. How did I never get an F? Somebody must have sparked me up at home. And that's a good opportunity, because a lot of times, my mom and dad, they went for help with this kid. So they sent me to the Y. By the time I was at the Y between 4 to 12, hey, I learned how to swim pretty good. Guess what? I won a state championship in swimming. And I'm a wrestler. I was on the YMCA swim team that won a state championship in the pool at the University of Iowa. Not the new pool, the old pool. In the backstroke. And guess what? Wow, you're going to be a wrestler. What are you doing on your back? Well, I came off my back in the water, and I never got put on my back again, so what the heck. It's one of those things. It carries over. Everything carries over. So someday you're not going to be this age. And there's a few people here that I've noticed that this age. But this is mostly Marengo students. And then you're going to have kids. I'll tell you, when you have kids, you're going to understand. You're going to understand what I'm talking about. I'm following 14 grandkids right now. I had 4 daughters. I didn't get a chance to follow them that much. The girls weren't really competing that much in extracurriculars when I was coaching the wrestling team. It'd be a little tougher now, but the wife was taking care of that. But right now, following 14 grandkids, and one's playing baseball at Iowa University. One's playing baseball up in a college in Minnesota. Got one that's wrestling as a senior this year. He's a baseball player too. Football player, baseball player, small. Got the next one is a girl, and she's wrestling right now. And got one. Well, they do all sports. They just about do all sports. And then all of them wrestle. And I lived next to 4 of them. And they're only 1 to 8. So, I got a lot of events that I have to go to. But anyway, the guidance that you can get from schools, from teachers, from coaches, from parents, so important in your life. And if you're not lucky enough, and I hate the word luck, nobody should have to win on luck. if you're not lucky enough to have something at home, and I hate the word luck, but every once in a while there's some unlucky people, then the next best thing you can do is find some good friends. Find some good friends, or find some people that will actually deal with you. You know how much fun it is to be successful? It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And I'm not talking about just making money. I'm talking about performance. People that just want to make money, you make money. You can. But if you perform well in life, you're going to make money. If you perform well in life, you are going to make money and have opportunities. This is the second engagement I've been at today. The first one, did it charitable, just to a group of guys that were former dentists in Iowa City. Had about a dozen dentists this morning that I met with at 9 o'clock till 11 o'clock. And right now, I'm here with you guys. And it's kind of funny, I was watching Marengo girls wrestle. Was it yesterday? Monday? So anyway, it's been pretty good. So anyway, this was supposed to be, he's supposed to ask me some questions. So has he asked me a question yet? I'm going to let him ask me a question because I'm probably leaving out something. I still never got to Travis, because here's the thing with Travis. Travis didn't, he's this poster. He's this poster. I'm calling stalling on somebody. And Travis Pfizer had this move, that move, this move, that move. But until he got called for stalling, he wouldn't try to start wrestling. So he's one of the guys that I always would have to tell the referee I was point stalling. And they would come over to me and say, "Are you calling stalling on your own guy?" I said, "Yes, and he is stalling. And if you call him stalling on the mat, he'll start wrestling. So call him for stalling." So he called him stalling, he started wrestling, he went, and he did very good. I don't know why, because he had a dad that would probably not like it either, and probably cracked him a couple times. You guys realize that you're at an age that's a little different than when I'm at an age? You know, when I went to school, I used to have to touch my toes and get paddled. Did you know that? You get paddled like that? You don't get that in school anymore? I had to do it on the edge of a pool, naked, in school. You know the guys, do you have a pool here? When I grew up, boys swam naked. Believe it or not, you can look it up on your phone and you'll see it. It's true. I mean, you won't see the actual naked people, but you won't see somebody getting paddled. But then they had to walk around in front of all the guys with a big paddle mark on their butt the rest of them. And that was me, and a lot of other guys too, because a lot of people got paddled when they went to school back in the old days. We're smarter than that now. We paddle you in a different way, I think. I don't know how. How do they discipline somebody now?
Not a paddle. So, maybe send him to the principal's office. We got a pretty scary principal here. So maybe send him.
So you don't know what goes on inside that door?
You never know. She's pretty tough.
So you ever check for, oh, it's a she?
Yeah, she. Mess with her.
Okay.
So.
Well, if you know you don't mess with it, then you don't want to go to the principal's office, right? Probably get a pretty good lecture.
Yeah, something.
You get something. You don't get a paddle though, huh?
No paddles.
The paddle had little holes in it too. So then you walked around, all these little holes on your butt, but it wasn't good. Anyway, you think I'm lying, don't you? Look it up. Proof. I'm living proof. I had to go through a lot of stuff. I don't mean to get you giggling too much, but I want to entertain you too. Because if I don't entertain you, you'll forget everything. So anyway, go ahead and ask me a question.
I don't know how I followed that one up. That was a pretty good one. So we have about 15 minutes here. I just have a couple questions there. The biggest one was tell us about what your internal motivation was as an athlete and as a coach, and what separated you from everyone else with that? You know, it's a tough thing for
No,
athletes to have.
I don't
Coach
believe
Dan.
in luck, but, you know,
Right.
because I already told you, because I believe in making your own luck. But it just so happens, a lot of that luck depends on where you're born into. And I think the biggest thing is that I born into some pretty good situation. Not perfect. A lot of beer drinking. A lot of yelling. But they know they had kids. And they wanted to make sure that those kids had the opportunities they had. And that's why when everything wasn't going perfect, they sent me to the Y. I had another opportunity to have somebody give me some Young Men's Christian Association. You got to have faith. And one of the things I want to point out here is I was sitting right out there. And there was a speaker up here. His name was Bob Richards. First person ever on the Wheaties box. If you know what Wheaties are, they're a cereal. Bob Richards was an Olympic pole vault champion. He came to our high school. He came about 2 weeks before I lost my sister. And he had a book. It's called The Heart of a Champion. I happened to buy that book. He was an Olympic pole vault champion, but he was also a preacher. And so when I bought that book, I really hadn't looked at it. But then, all of a sudden, I went for help. I kind of knew how to go for help, because my parents sent me for help for a few places. I got lucky to have a couple good teachers that sent me on the right direction. But I picked up this book and I started reading this book. This book's about faith. It's not just about religion, it's about faith. And it couldn't have came at a better time in my life, because I needed something to overcome what I was seeing with my parents after the loss of a grown-up child that was still living at home. And what's funny is there's a chapter in that book. This is just now to get in your mind to what I was reading at this time, to have a comeback. Even though I was already doing well in wrestling, I was a state champion as a sophomore. But I started reading this book, and I was reading this book, and it said in this book, it was a lot about track and field. And it said in this book that the 4-minute mile, you ever heard of that in track and field? It's a good time. But had never been reached yet. The 4-minute mile. And it said right in there, the 4-minute mile, nobody will be able to run a mile in 4 minutes. You would die. Your heart would burst before that 4-minute mile. Well, not too long after that, somebody broke the 4-minute mile, and he lived. And he lived. And the 4-minute mile this was back in the 60s. And so if you look at where the 4-minute mile is now, this is how life works. The 4-minute mile now is 3 minutes and 41 seconds. 19 more seconds off a time that they said could never be broken without dying. And nobody's died on the 4-minute mile yet. Or nobody's died on the 3:41 mile. It's pretty amazing. And that book talked about a lot of stuff in life. It just so happens, it could be your beliefs. And it was a book that came in real handy for a guy that was probably grieving, watching parents grieve, just because he didn't come back home and communicate. And people think that that wouldn't have been the total answer. But for me, if I had spread the word, the good word, and found out, it might have stopped something that negatively could have happened. But anyway, that book, and by the way, there's lots of good books out there to read. And you know what I just said? Good books. And it's kind of up to you what you think a good book is. But I wouldn't read a bad book. I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to hang around somebody that's going to influence me to be more negative than positive. Now, it's going to depend. Maybe if I give him a chance, maybe I can help him or her. If that's the type of way I think. So, you got to think about that. And nobody wants to be bad. Remember that. And maybe you can help them be good.
I think I got time for one more here. What do you like to do on your free time? Talked about grandkids. What else do you like to do?
My free time I don't have any free time. No, actually, I work out. I have to have that type of structure every day. I have to have hot tubs, sauna, steam, air-dyne, elliptical, weights. I have to have that, or I don't function. That's what makes me good. So I have a cabin in my backyard. You know why? Did I tell you? When I've decided to stop early in coaching, there's no way my wife was going to let me live in that same house full time. So I built a cabin in my backyard. It's only 40 feet. And in that cabin, I have everything I just told you. And I have a cold plunge outside, shower outside, And guess who uses it a lot? The baseball players, the wrestlers. I'm talking about all my grandkids and all their activities, and they come over and they do that stuff. So, my dad was a realtor. And so when I went to build a house in the country, he said, do not build a swimming pool. I said, why not? He said, you won't be able to resell as easy. It'll be tough for you to resell in a swimming pool. I said, Dad, I don't think I want to leave this house, ever. And he said, no, you just can't do it. Because he was set on his ways of doing a profession. So that summer came up, and I said, Dad, I'm going to build a swimming pool. I'm going to go against you because I never went against you, but I'm going against you now that I'm married, got some kids. He goes, now you're going to regret it. So all of a sudden, my dad and mom come down. They're out by the pool. My dad's bringing a cold beer. Shouldn't have. And he says, son, come over here. He looks at me and he said, Dan, best idea you ever had was to put this pool in. He was watching two of his grandkids, which was going to be two more than a bunch, and he was having a cold drink and nice sunny day and enjoying himself. So you can even teach your parents sometimes something. So everybody's got to be able to expand a little bit when something is needed.
I think that's about all we have time for here, but I really appreciate you coming in, and it means a lot that you came to Iowa Valley, be able to talk to everybody. It's a pretty big deal to have someone like Dan Gable come to our school there, so just want to let you know we appreciate that, so thanks a lot.